for hosting yet another community poetry event. We have two amazing readers tonight. The first is Cecily Parks, the second is Timothy Donnelly. Cecily Parks' first collection of poems, Field, Folly, Snow, was a finalist for the Norma Faber First Book Award. Her second collection, O Nights, will be published by Alice James Books in April. Lucky for us, she now lives in Austin and teaches in the MFA program at Texas State University in San Marcos. Cecily's poems are elegant, precise, searching. They often have the feel of the kind of exquisite control an exceptionally agile horse exercises with and over its own raw power. Have you ever seen one gallop with abandon but still pull up and turn on a dime? The wildness in Cecily's poems is intelligent, observational, unexpectedly oddball, and all the fiercer for the lovely fineness of its tuning. Please welcome Cecily Parks.
Lisa, thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you to Malvern Books. Thank you, Austin. This is my first reading in Austin. I'm really pleased to be here. By here, I mean at the bookstore, but also in the city. I'm very pleased to be reading with Timothy, who we just figured out I've known for 10 years. And I'm very happy to have known him for all this time. I'm going to read a poem about a horse. To begin with. It comes from my first book, Field, Folly, Snow. I lost my horse. I was looking for an animal, calf or lamb, in the wire, metal, and hair along the fence line. Wire, metal, and hair, and there, in the gully, a man I was pretending was dead. I pretended to leave him where the woods met the meadow, walking fast because I'd left my horse lashed to a fence I lost track of 2 valleys ago. Like a horse, I shied from the dead. Here, calf, here, lamb. I listen, wanting without my horse, my calf, or lamb, to be whip-smart rather than wanted. I wore orange on antelope season's first afternoon and waited for the click that means the safety is off. When I spoke, my story was about picking skulls clean. I wanted everything to be afraid of me, the horseless girl who wanted to kill a dead man again. The white bed with a window behind its headboard became ice on the meadow road and a tree to stop a truck dead. I meant to trace my bootsteps back to the fence where things went wrong, find my horse mouthing the bit, tied up by her reins. I looked for the horse because she looked safe enough to love. I looked for the calf or lamb because there was no calf or lamb. The man left before I could leave him, and I pretended the world was afraid of me because I was alone. And I'm going to read some poems from the new book. The first book was really focused on Western landscapes. The book that's coming out in April is very New England-y, probably because I was living in New England as I wrote it. And very fixated on Thoreau, thinking about the way Thoreau at Walden Pond got to have what I thought of as so much fun, being alone in the woods. My book is called O Nights, and it comes from a quote in Thoreau's journal where he talks about a farmer looking at him and speculating on Thoreau's age, and comparing him to his friend Emerson and saying, basically, you look older than Emerson, probably because you've been out at night much more than he has. So I began to wonder what Thoreau was doing at night and what it would be like to be a woman doing those kinds of things too. This poem is called When I Was Thoreau at Night. I covered my head so as to better hide from men and see the moon, with whom I carried on a conversation that illuminated like lantern swing, iterating and reiterating trees. I asked, what is my wild original? The moon said, you dream me. Underfoot, aromatic crush. I said, I marry you. The moon said, you cannot husband me. Overhead, darkness circuited through its diamond guides. If I were lonely, I loved loneliness. If I were hungry, I ate battered apples. One star said pilgrim, one star said peregrine, the name of the first English child born in the brackish new world. How I envied him, crying into the wilderness with a name meaning wanderer. My name seemed tame. How I hoped the farmers would not find me in this woods wearing this dress. I asked the stars, will you be my jewelry? The stars said, follow us. They drew me deep into the disheveled spruces to introduce myself to loss. My fields were ill. They weren't my fields. My trees were being killed. They weren't my trees. I was nervous that this natural world would see that I was filthy-footed in silk, a woman pretending to be the man to trip a pyrotechnic grace. Oh yes, I wanted the world to be wild again. I believed I might hold weather in my hands and mend it. The night was finite or infinite, expending my expiring decadence in modern thirst. I tempted biography to invent me. Weird nun in the night garden, I dipped my face, yes, my face, in every honeyed pond and could not drink. This poem is called The Forest for the Trees. I believe it's all this pollen that dizzies me. I chance and rechance upon the stalks of wild asparagus, the crimson rhubarb, the fern splayed into the cow road's muck. Is it my eye or sundown pin-tucking the ravine? I believe my panting leaves wet blossoms on the branches of this one tree. Willing my mouth to press against elm and ironwood, I have inklings of missing, but not of what I should miss. Solitude is like this, a distance I walk toward but never into. Strings of spit testify to the bark I've kissed. Obad with foxes. All night foxes ranged over the snow crust, barking raggedly. This morning, a warm rain softens the snow, and dumbly, I watch my love sweep it off the windshield and drive away. I'm in the road in little more than underwear, suspended in the edgy bliss of exhaust, with 2 flights of stairs to climb. In dens nearby, the coiled foxes lick their teeth and cover their eyes with white-tipped tails. When I go inside, my bare feet leave curved, wet marks on the stairway's metal treads. A fox will arc along a wall, knowing the stone won't hold her scent. When a fox runs and leaves, her sound is a rustle of leaves. No one is looking or listening for me. Nearby, a bell hits its notes. Which version of heaven will feed me until you come home? In one, I understand what the foxes say. In the other, the foxes find what they want and are quiet with it. This will be the last poem I read. It's called Hurricane Song, and contains a lot of questions, more questions than my poems usually contain. I was thinking about the ways in which Implicitly or explicitly, my writing is in dialogue with the natural world and often asking questions that can't be answered, and trying to see how many questions I could fit in and try to answer in the context of the poem. But I also think the spirit of questioning was an interesting attitude to approach the natural world from. Hurricane Song. The pines dizzying for a hurricane, the wind so hotly twirls their skirts and underskirts, unnerves their pine cones, ratchets up and up their branches into needle-spangled, needle-spraying plumes. The white running sunlight falls and tumbles through the meadow, rattling the grass. The meadow sweeps me up in its arms so that I lose track of east and feel that little kidnapped thrill that comes with drastic weather. Oh, almost wilderness, will the hurricane hunt this far inland for our green juice? I guess yes. The meadow guesses wet where it laps up against the soft remnants of wall. The clouds guess wind behind the swervy treetops. Blue jays vanish in the orchard's green. A deer flips herself over and over, white tail spark, black hoof sparks, brown wheel. The clouds guess again, shadows blooming and wilting in the grass, latticed branch shadow modeling the road. The sound of kisses increases through the forest, switchy sticks. The forest has loved itself long enough to do this. Is now when I should love myself into a safer place, or is this the place where love makes me safe? I guess yes and yes. Spastic gods, the grasshoppers manifest on the margins of errant leaves and spring into bright nothing. Where do they come from? Where do they go? The wild strawberries guess wind. The wind guesses wind. The grass guesses grass, tossing all of us. Thank you.